what were the biggest changes you had to implement?
This is going to seem less obvious because I'm sure the audience is expecting a little checklist of things I had to do with everybody else. The biggest change I had to make was with me, and learning how to be a better leader was the very first thing that I had to accomplish to get everybody on board with such a change, right? Because going from drawing a line down, we had a paper inspection, literally, they would start at the top and draw a line down through all the boxes, not even take the time to check a line, right? Pencil whipping at its finest. So I had to really change my process internally. How do I communicate effectively to my staff what I'm looking to do and why? And I mentioned, before we came on, it's as a shop owner, I will research something for weeks or months and then spend 6 seconds telling everybody this is what we're going to do now, and then not understand why they don't know what I know. So that's a true challenge, right? So I had to really learn how to change myself to become a better leader, to be able to explain the why. And it's not because thus saith Frank, because in the old days it was, hey, I'm large, I'm in charge, I'm the guy with the golden stripes. You're going to listen to me or hit the bricks. And that's really, believe it or not an effective way to lead a team.
How long did it take you?
Oh, let's see. I'm almost 100, so most of my life. It takes a while. You have to get to a point. It's like anything else. You have to admit you have a problem first, right? And when I realized, this pointing my finger in your face and demanding you do things my way just wasn't working. And so it took me maybe a year or two to really do some inner reflection and learn how to improve myself so I could become a better person, so people would want to follow me, which is exactly.
Is there any specific tools you used after you made that discovery of yourself?
I read every single book John Maxwell wrote. I read the E-Myth Revisited, Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. The list goes on and on and on. And all of those, and I read them, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, as they pop into my head. And I read them because I was looking for information. How do I do this better? So I didn't read it because I think this will help or somebody said this will help. I honestly read it with the intent of learning how to be better. How do I run my business better? How do I be a better businessman? How do I get people to if I'm walking off the cliff, they're going to walk behind me.
That sounds like a daunting task. Any particular book you would single out as the most impactful for you?
Currently, Traction, Rocket Fuel, and Process are the 3 most influential books. Traction is the very first business book I ever read that when I read the last page, I started over again to read it a second time because it impacted me so much. I'm a firm believer if I read that book 10 years ago, I'd have a $10 million a year business instead of $4 million a year, honestly, because it was that impactful on what we do as shop owners to get in the way of our companies growing.
And let's just, because I agree with you, this concept of having an implementer with implementation strengths and a visionary with other strengths which are not implementation related, having those people collaborate and create a, what's the word, creative friction between the two is probably one of the most important ingredients for a successful business.
Absolutely. And you need to know if you're a visionary or an integrator. And a visionary is you come in with these great ideas, these big ideas, and they're huge, and you can't wait for everybody to do everything you think of. And without having that implementation mentality, nothing gets documented, the processes don't get written correctly, and the accountability doesn't happen, right? And somebody commented, how great my staff was and asked me, how do you do it? I said, training and accountability, right? We measure what we're doing. We're measuring success and we're measuring results of the training that we're giving the team. So you can't manage what you don't measure. Everybody's heard me say that over and over again. But having that team, and that's what the book Rocket Fuel really emphasizes on. When a visionary is connected with a good implementer, it's like adding rocket fuel to your business. And everybody who's done it and pulled the trigger will tell you the same thing. Yep, big changes for the better.
Let's talk about digital inspections then.
Okay.
When do you realize it's not just a new process, it's a new belief system?
When I was raised on doing inspections, right? Inspections are an important part of looking over the car. And when I was first starting out in this industry, we didn't inspect the car to make sure it'd be better for the customer. We inspected the car to make sure we sold more work. Mm-hmm. And today, my mindset is, look, the money will come if you do the right thing. Don't worry about it. You have to inspect the car so the motorist knows what's going on with their vehicle, what they need to do, and why, and help them make that decision. So that's when it became a belief system, right? The process part of it, or the task part of it, is just do the inspection, send it up, sell it, get the next car, and let's just roll metal through the shop. More money, more money, more money. When I worked at a local dealership here, when I first moved to Vegas, it was like service advisors. We would take turns coming out to the hallway and making believe, pow, knocked another one out of the park, hit a home run. And it was a big deal to brag about hitting those home runs. That's the process. The belief system is, I truly want you, Mr. Customer, Mrs. Customer, to have a safe and reliable vehicle. That's why here. And then now let me do it right with transparency. That's the key. Let me show you what I'm looking at. Let me show you what I found. Let me show you what's going on. Let me tell you why it's important so you can make an informed decision.
So you changed your belief system from where you started out in the industry, as it was your job to go ahead and spot needs to generate revenue for the shop, over to it's your job. And you've taken this responsibility on yourself that it's our job to deliver safe, comfortable, dependable vehicles. How did you go ahead and bring your staff around to that same mindset without beating them with a stick?
So my belief system changed a long time ago, right? I've got 4 younger sisters and my mom, and myself and my dad. And I always had this innate feeling I had to protect my sisters, right? We did not have the greatest growing up environment. So I kind of had that protection mindset all my life, right? I have to protect the women around me. And I know, ladies, don't get all bent out of shape. You don't need no stinking man to protect you. It's my nature. It's what I do. And it's what I do well with the women in my life. So, and I was able to transfer that into how do I do what's best in your interest? Right. It's like a CFA, Certified Financial Advisor, is licensed to put the needs of his customer first, not his own. And they do a lot of training in that. And that's me, right? I have to put your needs ahead of mine and build trust and make those connections with people. So by doing that and having that mindset with my customers, that transfers into the workshop. That culture of the company transfers into the workshop, because I got to tell you, I have never been faced with technicians coming up with me and saying, hey, man, I can make us a lot of money. Let's just make believe we have to do these repairs and I'll just spray it off and clean it. Never happened. So I don't know why we have such a bad reputation. You would expect, as we hire people and we grow our businesses, techs come and go, that we would see that more, and I don't see it. So I believe it starts at the top, right? So I've always had that culture of we're always going to do the right thing. The money's always going to come, and it's always worked out that way.
So can you go to the next level of detail so our audience might be able to apply a few things? How did you approach your staff after it clicked with you?
So when I realized that the digital inspection process was really what we needed to have, because it really simplified communicating with the customer. In the old days, we'd call up, John, you got to come down and look at your car. He'd figure out a way to get down to the shop, I had his car. I don't know how we got there. And he'd look up and he goes, I don't know what it is, but how much? Right. Or, started to take pictures with digital cameras, attaching them to emails and sending them over. Hey, I'm going to send you a picture. I don't know what I'm looking at. How much? Right. So to be able to put it in a format, number one, I could actually measure how many pictures are being taken. I can actually measure how many inspections are being spent. I can actually measure how much time customers were looking at the inspections. Gave me the power to fine tune the system. And, when we first started, I bought all the tablets and I handed them to the techs and said, here you go, start doing digital inspections. And off I went. And nobody did them. And I was scratching my head and I couldn't figure out why. I said, man, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Why aren't you doing it? Well, I don't know how to do it. What do I do? Oh, yeah, let me show you. That's visionary, right? Let's do digital inspections. Here's the tools you need. That integrator, that implementer, he's the guy that goes, okay, I have to learn how to do this. I have to learn how to build the inspection sheets. I have to learn how a good picture is taken and go down the list, and creates a little process for that. So then I was getting spotty pictures, 2, 3, 4 pictures of car. I said, no. I have an idea. Let's do 8 pictures per car. And what is my team going to do? Yes, boss, you got it. No lie. One of my technicians took a picture of 4 tires and 4 shocks. Why? Because he had no direction. So this is part of learning from my mistakes, right? So if y'all listen, and then how do you create your policy? Right now we have a detailed picture policy that says fan belts on every car that are equipped with fan belts. Electric cars don't have fan belts, so we had to update that. Batteries when accessible. Want a picture of every single battery. All 4 tires, tire size, speed rating, date code. These are some of the mandatory pictures that we require our team to take. Now I've got a consistent inspection process so that when Johnny brings his car in January, he gets the same inspection in July, he gets the same inspection in December, and on it goes. And it's consistent. When it's consistent, it builds trust. So as
you initially started down this journey, did you spend time explaining why your staff should be doing this? Or is that something that you probably should have done a little bit before you got into how you wanted it done?
I always follow up with why. The why is very important. And because even when my staff has a question for me, I said, well, what's the why behind it? So the why was always part of my internal process. It was the being able to get that message across. This is going to help customers understand better what they need. They can see it firsthand. Here's a little bit of description of what we're talking about. They'll be able to make decisions faster. So boom, everybody's on board with that. Right? How many technicians love waiting 2 or 3 days for a customer to approve work? None that I've ever met. So being able to get those faster approvals is a big deal. We've had to make staff changes too. We've had people who at the time were in their late 50s, early 60s, really good advisors, really connected with people, really did a great job of being that guy that, hey, I just want him to take care of me. If he's not here, I'll come back another day kind of relationship with the customer.
Wow.
Who struggled with the technology, who struggled with reviewing the pictures and making sure that the notes were legitimate, making sure that the picture was the correct picture, and then actually hitting the send button to send the inspection out. And I'd have those discussions, and this is the accountability part. It says, okay, hey, remember, we talked a couple of weeks ago about you're going to send out every single inspection. Yeah, I'm doing it. Okay, the report says 12%, whatever the number was. And it's like, no, that can't be right. Okay, I can download the actual repair orders and we can review them one by one. And I did this, and it's painful, but necessary. And then what about this one? Oh, yeah, I didn't do that one. What about this one? Oh, no, I didn't do that one. And then when he did start to finally send the inspections out, he didn't change his process as training was performed endlessly, where I'm going to send the inspection out. I need you to review it, Mr. Jones, and then I'm going to call you and we're going to go over it. He'd send the inspection out because, oh my gosh, Frank's going to tune me up again if I don't send the inspection out. But he failed to, and we could tell by his numbers and the research time and his sales compared to the ones who were doing it. There was no guesswork. It's like pick up the phone. Oh yeah, we need to do these 3 things, only $1,500. And I'd look at the inspection, it'd be like 7 recommendations on it. And I said, well, what happened here? Well, he won't buy that. Okay, we have a problem. So having that ability to measure that allowed us to have the confidence to make a change. And sometimes you got to change people out.
As a shop owner, there's always a little bit of fear every time you make a change, especially a big change like this. Any surprises along the way? You're thinking through your employees before you do this, thinking about who's going to make the change and who's not. Any surprises, or were you pretty much spot on who made the cut and who didn't?
You know what? I was really surprised because I just normally assumed they trusted me so much they would do anything they could to do what I asked them to do. And then some people just, they can't. So in EOS, we talk about this a lot, where you have your team member, and EOS calls it GWC. The G is for, do they get it? Right. And it's like, hey, we're going to do this inspection and this is what we're expecting. Okay, I got it, boss. You got it. Hey, I need to know if you're on a team. Can you do this for me? Boss, I got it. I want it. I want it, boss. I want to do this. G, get it. W, want it. And the C is capable. Are they capable of doing it? So the fact that somebody wants to do it, the fact that they get it, the fact that they understand it doesn't mean they're capable of doing it. So those are the decisions you have to make. And that's where you have to really reflect on yourself and saying, look, am I going to continue to tolerate this level when I'm trying to achieve this level? And you're just, and sadly, most people, well, he's worked with me for a long time. I can't get rid of him. Oh, I know his mother's uncle's brother's cousin, and, it would cause a family rift, so I can't get rid of him. Or, hey, man, I'd rather have him than nobody because, people are hard to find. So you can make up all the excuses you want. You have to make those changes. You have to decide, what is my business going to be like? What is my business going to look like? What is the vision for my business? Doesn't matter if your vision is 1 store that's finely tuned and running well, or 50 stores. None of it will happen without the right people in the right places in your company.
So tolerating somebody that's pushing against the system really can be a contagion to go ahead and contaminate other people's mindsets?
Absolutely. And sometimes it's bad behavior we tolerate. All right. Raise your hand if you've ever had a technician who was just toxic beyond belief. He had this black cloud that followed him everywhere he went, but he was a high producer, and you felt like, I can't afford to get rid of this person. They produce so much. Then the day comes and you finally get it to where you've had enough. Off they go. And lo and behold, nobody died. Nobody broke out in hives. The building did not collapse on itself. And the rest of the team was like, finally, they did something about this problem. And nobody has ever told me the opposite of that scenario. Nobody has ever told me, you know what? I had that really toxic person and I got rid of them and I went bankrupt. I've never heard them say that. They always say the rest of the team has risen to the top. The rest of the team had really come through for me. And I've had the exact same experience. So that's toxic. Let's just talk about underperforming. How long will you tolerate underperformance? It's up to you, right? 4 T's of employee management: train, transfer, tolerate, terminate. Did I train them to do the job I've hired them to do? If no, get training. If they can't do the job, can I transfer them to another position? Now, some of us with smaller companies, that may or may not be an option, but you have to ask the question. Tolerate. How long will I tolerate what's going on? Whether it's toxic, underperforming, coming in late, bad mouth, attitude, whatever the case may be, it doesn't matter. How long will I tolerate it? And do I have no choice but to terminate? It sounds.
So when you made these changes, obviously, you had some things go ahead and for the positive. So 2 questions. One is, how long did it take for the customer experience, for the customers to notify you they really like the change? And then how long before or after that, before the staff actually bought in?
With the customers, it was immediate. Absolutely immediate. As soon as we started sending out inspections, they were like blown away. Oh my gosh, this is awesome. This is amazing. And that's how you know you're on the right track. And what was the other part of that question?
And then did the staff go ahead and did they go ahead and experience the better before or after they started getting feedback from the customers?
I think because we review numbers on a regular basis and we could show them the increase in ARO without much more effort. We could show them that here are the facts that we don't have to work on as many cars. So it's easier for everybody, right? So I saw somebody posted on Facebook the other day, blew my mind, and goes, "Hey, how many cars you guys doing today? We're doing between 50 and 70. And I'm thinking, my gosh, I hope that's a 50 or 55 bay shop, because I'm like 7 or 8 cars a day, right? And because our numbers are higher, but 50 to 70 cars a day. And I can't even imagine on a smaller staff, the stress that puts on everybody. So we can measure our AROs increasing. We can lower our car count. We can get a little more picky in who we're bringing in here, because, there's just customers who just don't want top level service. They're sitting at home waiting for the $19 oil change coupon to come in the mail so they can get their oil change, so you can tell them what's wrong with their car, so their drunk cousin can fix it in the driveway. Let's face it, this happens a lot. So I want a higher level of customer. I want those who want to pay a little more for somebody who's going to stand behind their car for longer and is going to do a better job, and have that transparency with pictures. You guys were talking the last couple of weeks about Bruce's daughter's dealership experience. We've had customers bring their dealership inspections in, and we're looking at it and go, this is a picture of a water pump, not your water pump, a water pump. This is a picture of a brake pad, not your brake pad, a brake pad. Give me a moment. I'm going to run the car in the shop real quick. I'm going to redo this inspection, and I want you to see how ours compares. I'm going to take a picture of your car, your brakes, and your water pump, and the things that are on your car. And that is a game changer.
I have a question. There is a point where everybody is buying into the new process. And then isn't there the ultimate step is they come back in team meetings to you with proposals of how to improve it. And that's the ultimate metric when you can start leaning back.
Yeah.
And it's working.
They understand this is what we're doing. This is how we can do it better. Fan belts is a mandatory picture in my shop.
Mm-hmm.
So as more and more electric cars come in that don't have fan belts, my team said, hey, can we add electric vehicle no fan belt to the process, instead of going, you see, that's why this crap doesn't work. That's the difference between somebody on board and somebody who just wants to complain about every new idea you come in with. Boss, it's just a bunch of junk. We don't need to do it that way. We've been doing it this way and it works fine. And it you know what? It doesn't. People are changing. I got my wife's car in the dealership for warranty work. It irritates me to no end that I cannot communicate with them via text. Irritates me to no end. When my car's in my shop, I communicate with my own shop via text. All right. You can look behind me. I'm in the Frank Scandora workshop studio. That's where I spend most of my time. It irritates me to no end. This guy's calling me up and leaving me voice messages. Are you kidding me? It's 2023. And this is all part of the digital process. Mm-hmm. I love it when a shop owner says, oh, I don't want to bombard my customer with too many texts. Really? How many did you answer in the last 10 minutes versus how many emails you read or calls you took? Give me a break. That's what everybody's doing.
As a shop owner, maybe I've tried to go ahead and implement digital inspections and I'm not seeing growth of ARO and weekly revenue. What are some really dialed in tips that you can give them to go ahead and figure out what's went wrong and how to fix it?
It does take some upfront work on your part. And for me, I had to review a lot of inspections in the beginning, and I had to show the advisor what to look for. We learned this lesson the hard way once when a lady came in to pick up her car unannounced and goes, I don't know what you guys are up to, but I'm getting my car. And I was like, come out of my office. Whoa. What happened? Because nobody's ever said that in my shop. And she goes, your inspection's junk or something. And she was really upset about it. And I said, well, let's look at it. And this was in the early days. And the technician wasn't sure if the tablet was taking pictures correctly. So he's looking down at his tablet, he's taking pictures and does his inspection, sends it up. Shop foreman comes over. We're all trying to figure out, yep, it's working okay. We ended up sending her an inspection of the technician's boots because he's looking down at the tablet, click, he's looking at his own feet. And it's like, well, what do you expect the customer to do or feel like or act like when you send that kind of junk through the mail? Okay. So that's when it really became important to create that process. I had to review a lot of inspections, send it back for this reason, send it back for that reason. And this is how you correct it over time. I talked to a shop owner a few weeks ago who made the absolute opposite mistake. He got the Auto Vitals demonstration and he really loved it. And he bought tablets and he sent them to the shop. He wasn't even at the shop on a regular basis, sent them to the shop and said, I need you guys to start doing this. And of course, everybody, well, we can't do this. It's too hard. We don't know how it works. We hate it. Send it back. Nobody, and this is important, you have to have somebody be in charge who understands. It doesn't matter what the program is or whose it is. They have to understand how it works. You have to take the time and understand how it works. Us shop owners, man, we're on the internet all the time. We're getting bombarded with phone calls and emails and, oh, this looks really good. Oh, I like that. And let me send this over and let's start doing this. But if you don't understand how it works and your team has questions, what are you going to do? You have to be able to train them completely, and you have to have a complete understanding. And I learned that.
So if they're not getting the results as expected, the step number one is to go ahead and start doing inspection audits. As a shop owner, understand yourself the quality of what's going out to the customer, and then go ahead and work with your staff for incremental improvements.
And that's absolutely correct. And it's no different than listening to phone calls or doing other things that you're measuring. If you're looking over the inspection, looking over the sent rate, looking over the approval rate, and you become keenly aware of what the customer's needs, it's impossible not to have an ARO improvement. It is impossible. And shops that don't measure it and hold their team accountable won't succeed in anything. Forget if it's just digital inspections. I got my first job in a gas station in upstate New York because the old guys refused to work on Toyotas and Hondas. And I owned a Datsun at the time, right? I'm not working on that junk. Get that junk out of here. We're not going to work on it. Dude, the times are changing. This is in the early 80s. You have to work on the cars your customers are buying or you're going to die. And that reality was no different then than it is now. What kind of information are your customers consuming? What kind of questions are they asking? Who's going to answer those questions? Now, we all know you can go and ask Mother Google and get all kinds of crazy information from all kinds of crazy people. Or we can be the source of the information. We can be the experts, and we can offer that transparency to the customer. And quite frankly, if I tell a customer they need something and they don't want to do it, I says, okay, I just want you to be aware that we highly recommend this. Never will we pressure anybody to do something they don't understand.